Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. First of all, I want to give a big round of applause to the PPMA for hosting a fantastic event, as well as Terabiz. I think this is definitely a game changer and a wake-up call for the pharmaceutical industry in Pakistan to see how do you use next-generation technologies to drive your next phase of growth. Just a little bit about me. I actually come from a pharma background. I've had the privilege to work for some of the biggest pharma companies in the world, leading digital transformation. Pfizer was my last job. But now I've become a venture capitalist. We've just launched a $100 million venture fund. It's an emerging markets digital growth fund. And around 30 to 40% of that will be spent in investing in the Pakistani startup ecosystem over the next 3 to 4 years. The focus and the vision of the fund is if you can solve billion-plus people problems, you can create billion-dollar companies. And we truly believe that. In terms of the sector focus, healthcare is going to be a very big sector focus for us, specifically in Pakistan, because there's definitely a need of new digital transformative technologies to improve the healthcare system in the country. We're doing this with Inbox Technologies. Inbox Technologies, as you guys are aware, are the biggest domestic tech company in the country. We've just signed a strategic partnership with them, where we're going to be doing two things. We're going to be bringing blockchain digital platforms to the country, and we're also going to be, together with them, with our Fusion Fund, be investing in Pakistani startups. So before we continue, we've talked a lot about the fourth industrial revolution. I think it's always nice to have a video to basically contextualize the environment that we live in today. So if you could play the video, please. So what is the fourth industrial revolution? In essence, it's how do you use information. So data is the new oil, and intelligent information is the new currency. And enterprises who are able to embrace this are the winners of the fourth industrial revolution. But it comes at a trisector. So we've talked a lot about artificial intelligence. I'm going to talk a little bit more about blockchain. We've talked a lot about big data. But these are all three components that exist together. So we know a little bit more about big data, which is the capture and store and analysis of information. Blockchain is a new technology which is really around validating and authenticating that information and data. And what artificial intelligence does, it executes the action and it continuously learns. And these are essentially the three trisectors of the digital economy. The opportunity of blockchain. So who understands what blockchain is? Can you put your hands up? Okay, so hopefully you learned something today, hopefully. So the story of blockchain actually comes from cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin. And what people do is they get confused between Bitcoin and blockchain. Blockchain is actually an authentication and validation and verification of information and data. And it's one of the biggest megatrends that exists today in the world. It's really using computers to digitize trust between multiple parties within a chain. So if you look at that from a medical supply chain standpoint, and I'll talk about that, which is you have the manufacturer, he then hands that over to a distributor, the distributor then hands that over to a logistics provider, the logistic provider then delivers that to the retailer, and then the medication ends up in the hands of the doctor or the consumer. So within that chain are many, many handovers of information and data. And that information and data right now is essentially being probably handed over by a piece of paper. And what happens when you use paper, you get issues, you get variances. So the basis of blockchain is something called a smart contract. And a smart contract is essentially digitizing the contract. So taking it from paper and making it paperless. And then using computer technology and algorithms and artificial intelligence to basically do a handover every time something happens within the supply chain to make sure that that data is authenticated, validated, and verified by all parties who are in the chain, whether it be the retailer at one end to the manufacturer at one end. Everyone has access to the same information, and they are validating and authenticating it as the medication moves from the manufacturer side to the retailer side. So that's basically what blockchain is, and that's basically what a smart contract is. It's just digitization of a paper contract, putting it into a blockchain, but the benefits of that is huge. So what is the opportunity for healthcare in blockchain? It's data, it's personal health records, it's analytics, it's the supply chain, it's identity, and there's a whole ecosystem that's now being brought up when it comes to the use of blockchain. In terms of the growing acceptance within the pharma manufacturing field, as you can see, just within a year, the acceptance of the use of blockchain within pharma and life sciences has gone from 22% to 60%. The biggest opportunities for pharma in the use of blockchain technology is, first and foremost, the medical supply chain. How do you manage such a complex supply chain when you have so many different players within that chain that are essentially controlling or handling your medication in some way, and they're all on different systems, they all have different types of databases, they all look at data in a different way. Blockchain essentially transforms that, digitizes that whole thing, so you don't get those big variances, which is, I produce so much in the factory, and what ended up at the retailer side was 30% less because something happened with the logistics guy or the distributor guy. When it comes down to blockchain, those types of issues don't happen because the computer is digitizing and making sure that everyone in the chain has agreed to the information. So the benefits of blockchain is, one of the key things is because it's on several different computers, if one record is changed on one computer, the record anyway exists on maybe 1,000 different computers. So it's immutable and it's incorruptible and it can't be hacked. So you cannot change the information once it's locked onto the blockchain. It enables reconciliation, security, privacy, etc., etc., etc. So those are the benefits of blockchain, where artificial intelligence is used via the computers to make sure that these contracts are fulfilled and are executed in the right way. So now I talked a little bit about blockchain. I want to talk about the foundations of the digital economy that exists in Pakistan. There's around 66 million people, which is the population of the United Kingdom, that are using 4G technology every day on their phone. So this is what you call a captive market. This captive market are millennials, they're Generation Z, they're what we call digital natives. You know, you switch off the internet, you switch off Facebook, you switch off WhatsApp, it's like, kisi ka intikal ho gaya. This is your captive market as pharmaceutical companies. It's like, how do you develop and deliver new products and services within healthcare with this captive market? One company that I'd like to talk about is Daraz.pk. They went in for retail. Why? Because the retail infrastructure in Pakistan is still very traditional. Unlike, you know, I live in the UAE where you have malls and you have key accounts and you have an amazing infrastructure that is developing in Pakistan. But what Daraz successfully did was they looked at that captive market and they said, well, you know what, we're just going to go e-commerce. And a company like Alibaba bought them for $200 million. So you have a captive market that requires digital products and services which you can make money from. If you identify the key issues of what are the new products and services that you can provide as pharmaceutical companies. And digital healthcare is emerging. There are super apps now emerging. One example of Halo Doc in Indonesia. You have Augment Care and several others that I've seen today in Pakistan. You have Doctor to You in Malaysia. And what these apps are doing is they're identifying the issues within the existing healthcare system and how does the application address those issues. Whether it be pharmacy delivery, booking an appointment, lab services, this all exists. So these are, I would say, 4 key opportunities for blockchain in Pakistan. One is patient access, electronic medical records, the medical supply chain, and tracking counterfeit. I'm just going to take another 5 minutes just to quickly go through a couple of examples because I don't want to have a conversation conceptually. This is happening. It's not happening in Pakistan, but it's happening everywhere else. Here's an example of patient access. So this is a kiosk. This is a physical kiosk that you sit in. This uses artificial intelligence and blockchain technology to provide medical services. This is being rolled out currently in Vietnam and China. It vends medication. It can be OTC medication. It can be prescriptive medication. It will create and print out a prescription. And it also has access to telehealth services. So when you talk about access, these are the type of things that are now emerging and are available in the market to increase access to basic medical services. Electronic medical records. This is another company. It's called Monique. The goal of Monique is to take your passport, your ID card, your medical card, everything, digitize it, put it into a single wallet. So you can access it whenever you want. So you're totally digitizing it, you're putting it on the blockchain, so your identity is fixed and everyone can see it. And this is currently being rolled out in the GCC and Sub-Saharan Africa region. Another example, medical supply chain, and I think for the pharmaceutical community like yourselves, managing your medical supply chain is probably your biggest headache. It's like, I have inventory issues, you know, the retailer is giving me a different number, the distributor is giving me a different number. So how do you bring all of those parties together under a single blockchain so you can make sure that the data in terms of your inventory is authenticated, verified, and so you don't have those issues that currently exist today. Another example, tracking counterfeit medication. So again, this is a consumer app that's currently being deployed in 2 developing countries. So what happens is all of the data in terms of the track and trace, all of the production information, the manufacturer information is all secured onto a blockchain. And all you need to do is you just scan the QR code or the barcode, and it will tell you if this is a genuine medication or not. And because all of the data is on a blockchain, it cannot be, it's uncorruptible, and because it exists on several different computers, it's validated, and no one can hack into it. So this is another example, because obviously this is a big issue in Pakistan. It's like, how do you tackle counterfeit medication, which is obviously a big issue. So this is again an example of something that is happening. This is not concepts. This is real. So it's really around how do you guys move forward in embracing these technologies that will help you manage your supply chain more effectively, whether it be the entire end-to-end supply chain or whether we're looking at it from tackling the counterfeit issue that you have. But this doesn't happen without the regulator. Absolutely. You have to have regulatory cover for these new technologies. Any new technology, and coming from a healthcare background and driving digital transformation, the biggest issue has always been has been regulation. So one of the things that I did before I left Pfizer is we did a partnership with the UAE government, and we created a healthcare lab. And that healthcare lab essentially gave us regulatory cover to experiment and trial new types of healthcare technologies, which if we would have done that independently, the regulator would have shut us down. So by having regulatory cover in this lab, what that allowed us to do was to experiment, but also after the experimentation, whether it be on medical records, whether it be in using blockchain technology for counterfeit or in the supply chain, what came out of the regulatory lab was a set of recommendations, worked together with the regulator on this is how you need to change the legislation and regulation. Because without that, all of the great innovation that is coming out of this country or anywhere else on healthcare, because healthcare is heavily regulated, without regulatory approval, a startup can only go to a certain point and then be shut down because they're actually going against regulation. So this was actually my last slide, and this is, I would say, probably the most important slide. But hopefully now we're coming into the country with Inbox. Some of these issues we will obviously help together with them tackle because we definitely see a big opportunity in investing in the country. Like I said, over the next 3 to 4 years, we'll be investing around $40 million into the Pakistani startup scene. Healthcare is definitely going to be a key focus for us. And the importance is that we've got to get going, we've got to get moving, we've got to move beyond concepts, and we've got to really start investing in this new digital economy, which is around 66 million people in the country. Thank you very much.